Now we got to move on to Poor Things.
Yes. Introducing or reintroducing my lovely wife, Kelly.
Hello.
Who will be joining us.
It's been since the Lord of the Rings.
Since
the
Lord of the Rings episode.
The TV show.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
It's been a while.
It's been a while.
So Kelly is back because neither of us are women.
No.
And I feel like with Poor Things, it's important to have a female perspective.
Heck yeah.
Yes.
So we're going to talk about Poor Things.
Okay.
And not just the sexy parts.
There's not much more then, because that's 90% of the movie.
Oh, I'm thinking of the goose with the dog head.
Stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a movie.
It was a movie.
It was interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so for those of you who are unaware, Poor Things was the, let's call it, if Oppenheimer was the Oscar no-brainer, this was the Oscar darling.
Yeah.
This was like the award show movie that everyone's like, it's an indie film, it's out there in many ways.
I immediately get why, because honestly, I like this more than Oppenheimer.
But also, a lot of people involved have won Oscars for other stuff.
Yes.
Or been nominated at various points.
Yes.
It has a little more complication in terms of like the world building than a biopic.
Yeah.
Where they have to kind of show you how the world works and what the rules are and how things are laid out.
Yeah. So this movie I would put in the vein of movies like The Lighthouse, The Witch. Like, it's an indie film.
Yeah.
It's
The Favorite from a few years ago.
Yeah, which is also Yorgos.
Same director.
yeah. And I even had vibes of The Adventures of Baron Munchausen when I was watching it, because it has a lot of that, especially like the boat and the scene where she's riding the fish and all that. It's like some of those graphics are right out of a Terry Gilliam movie.
Yeah.
And so
definitely.
that's why, like, I saw Gilliam as definitely someone that they drew inspiration from for the visuals for this movie.
Definitely.
Because it was...
There's a lot of surrealism. A lot of surrealism.
My God.
Yeah.
At first I'm watching it like, I don't know what the fuck I'm watching.
Yeah.
Like, it was...
It was a lot.
It was a lot.
It was
especially
a lot.
when you first understand what Willem Dafoe's character does to create her. I was like, holy shit.
I remember them intimating that from the trailer. But when he says it, I was like, Jesus Christ.
Well, see, I don't remember that from the trailer. I remember them mentioning that this is like a Bride of Frankenstein type movie, which it kind of is.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But I didn't quite understand the whole... And folks, spoilers. I mean, it's been out for a while now. It's going to have spoilers in here. Taking her baby's brain and putting it in her head. I was like, I did not see that coming.
It was very intense.
Like,
Yeah.
holy fuck.
Yeah, it was definitely like a moment of like, Jesus Christ.
That's exactly what I said.
Jesus Christ.
The thing it shares with Oppenheimer is did we ever stop to ask why before doing it? Yeah, whether we should.
Yes. Thank you. Yes.
Nobody stopped and said, is this a good idea? It was merely, I have an opportunity, so I have to do it.
For science.
Now, I'm going to make a comparison.
Sure.
You two may have not seen these movies.
Okay.
Lars von Trier, Nymphomaniac.
I haven't seen Nymphomaniac, but I have seen Melancholia, and I have seen
Antichrist? Okay, that's a fucked up one. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, Lars von Trier is a very out there director.
Out there is a nice way of putting it.
Yes.
Some might say borderline problematic, abusive.
I wouldn't even say borderline. I would say definitely problematic and abusive. But Nymphomaniac is far more graphic. But when I say far more, I actually don't mean that much more graphic sexually than this movie is, because this movie does push that envelope.
There's a lot of sex in this movie.
It's like graphic.
Yeah.
But Nymphomaniac is a very avant-garde indie film about a woman finding her sexuality.
Yeah.
And then dealing with the repercussions. I got a lot of those vibes from her character in this, because I don't know how I quite felt about them taking that tone with it, because I liked the parts of her finding her intellectual capacity more than her sexual. Like, I think they pushed the sexuality way too far.
See, I think the sexuality thing was really interesting, and I'll leave most of this to you. I think that was interesting because that's something that traditionally women aren't allowed to explore. And so this idea...
I'm not saying I don't find the sexuality interesting. I think they did it too much.
But I think that was kind of the point, was that you have this person who has no experience in anything, and one of the first things that they discover is sex. and they are allowed to go out and explore and learn for themselves, and they're a naturally curious individual who is scientifically minded, so everything, even sex, comes down to making notes and figuring out the best way to, like, I love the scene where she's in the brothel later on and she has a few suggestions to make it more pleasurable for everybody, and the mistress is like, that's not what we're here for. We're here for the 30 francs and that's it. And she just fully ignores that. She's like, fuck that. And the next guy that comes up, she's like, okay, before we start, I got a few questions. You tell me something and then I'll tell you something. And I was just like, I really like this. I like the progression of this character learning and growing.
But see, that's the thing, especially when I did enjoy the brothel scene, but I enjoyed it for a different reason. I don't see that as her like learning to help her sexually. I saw it as her getting off more by learning, and that ended up helping her sexually.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, I think it was that for everybody involved. I think it was her having grown so much that she could look at how sex was being done by and large and say, well, but this isn't right. This isn't the best way to do this. I know how to do this better. And
she went about it very scientifically.
This is what I'm saying, is that right down to the point that when she's feeling depressed and homesick, she goes to a surgery so she can just cut open corpses and kind of look around in them. But that's what I'm saying, is that she is this scientifically minded individual who is always looking at things and like taking them apart and putting them back together. It's Reed Richards as Gwen Stacy. It's just constantly taking things apart and putting them back together and seeing the world in a way that no one else does, which some people find enamoring, some people find frightening, some people find endearing, some people are in love with, and then horrified by. But the movie as a whole was just so interesting, the way that it wove and created, like how it begins in black and white, and another classic art film thing, and then transitions into color. But even when we go back to the house from the beginning, it's in color still. Once the color hits, it's in there. Once she goes out into the world, there's no going back.
Yeah. One of the themes that we talked about after watching it is something that I got very strongly from it, is this idea of nature versus nurture as you get older and as you mature and as you learn about the world. Because again, spoilers, at the beginning, when she's kind of in her like toddler mindset phase, because
she literally has a toddler's mindset.
Yeah.
I mean, oh yeah, but there's like the whole thing where she really wants to stab stuff and like hurt stuff, and that very like,
we only stab dead things.
Yeah, the masochism sort of thing. And then at the end of the movie, when, spoiler alert, she meets
her husband father?
Her husband father?
Victoria's husband.
Yes.
Yeah.
But not... What was her...
it's the...
Bella. Not Bella's husband.
Not
Victoria's husband.
Yeah.
Victoria's husband and
Bella's dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is so fucking weird.
But they kind of show that her biological father is also super violent.
Yeah.
And she kind of looks at him like, what is wrong with you?
Because it's violence without a purpose.
Yeah. And, like, as a toddler, like, that was something that was in her, I guess.
Exciting and attractive and fun.
But because of the way she was brought up by Willem Dafoe and the other guy,
Rami Youssef.
Yeah. She much more had that scientific curiosity and, like, there's a way to do these kinds of things. And the way she goes about disposing of said man is very methodical and interesting. It's very methodical
and scientific.
And
But what I found interesting is it wasn't just... Was it Gerald was the husband? Or no, what was the name of the general? Not general.
It was the general, Alfie.
It wasn't just Alfie who was violent, though, because Alfie had said Victoria...
She was also
violent. She killed herself because she hated the baby growing inside of her.
Yeah.
And it's like, so not only was it her father, but it was also her mother that were psychopaths.
Yeah.
And it's like, that was an interesting
It was very interesting.
Twist.
It was very interesting. I just love the dialogue and the characterization of the people in this movie, where I'm thinking of the people on the boat, where she walks up and is like, when was the last time you had sex with a man? And the old woman's like, oh, nobody wants to have sex with me. And she's like, oh, that's terrible. Oh, that's awful. Tell me you masturbate. And she's like, of course I masturbate. And she's like, oh, I'm so glad.
My heart is glad.
And I was just like, I love this. This is so funny. And then when she gets too cozy with them and Mark Ruffalo decides that he's going to kill the old woman to prove a point, and he goes up to her, and Bella's just like, this is going to be fun. And then the old woman's like, oh, no, I'm being murdered. And then she's like, I love this.
That scene, the entire boat scene, is my favorite part of that movie.
Yeah.
Because that, to me, is where you got the most character growth in Bella. Because you really took her from this sexual being that doesn't really know much other than Mark Ruffalo and her father, to she meets these people and she learns philosophy and she sees Alexandria, all the poor people, and the growth that happens on that boat, I love, especially the Ruffalo character, because he disintegrates where she grows. He goes down into this madness, and it's like, that was awesome.
Go ahead.
If we're looking at this as kind of looking at the stages of life, it's almost very much her puberty, because she learns of the horrors of the world.
Yeah. Her brain turns on.
Yeah.
And she's like, wait a minute. But it even goes down to that way that Mark Ruffalo's character is like, oh, you don't even have your cute way of talking anymore. Like, even her speech patterns change.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I love that at the beginning they give us that clue where Rami Youssef is like, yeah, she's learning 15 words a day on average.
Yeah.
And it's just like, okay, all right. So she goes fast. That brain grow big fast.
And
grow big fast.
What I appreciated, though, on that, and I'm trying not to stick to my dislike for the amount of sex in this movie.
Ooh, I want to talk about that.
The part on the boat, the part I liked most about it is that's where I said I think she got the most growth, because it was intellectually. You didn't have her, like when she had that scene with Harry in his room, I'm like, is she gonna fuck him? And then they don't. It's just her friend, and he's trying to, like, you have her friend, the older woman, who's like pushing philosophy, and then you have her other friend who's just pushing reality of the world on her.
Nihilism,
exactly. Yeah. And I love how they didn't, like, that was the only part of the movie where she didn't use her sexuality, and she truly was like, I am learning, like you said, through her puberty, but it was a non-sexual puberty. Like, she was like, I'm learning about the reality of the world, not attached, because she doesn't even have sex with Mark Ruffalo when they're on the boat, because there's always, he's either drunk or she's doing something else. All of that's gone.
Yeah.
And it's just her brain. And that's why you can see her speech pattern growing from that boat scene, because she really is growing just mentally.
Well, and like the way that he traps her on the boat. They have this whole time
where she
gets in Portugal, and she's having a great time, and then he traps her on the boat, and she's like, well, this is not what I wanted, and I'm not just gonna be your plaything.
Fight fire with fire.
And yeah, she goes off and does whatever the hell she wants, because that's who she is. I really did just love the ebb and flow of the movie. I think the only thing that took it away from me was when they try and recreate the unrecreatable experiment. That was they tell us at the beginning, this is a once-in-a-lifetime experiment. I found this woman who had died recently. Her baby was grown enough that I could extract the brain and install it in the adult. I know, when you put it down, it sucks. But they keep on telling us, like, we're never going to get another chance like this. Oh, but wait, we're fully going to get another chance at this.
And they don't really explain with was it Felicity or
Margaret Qualley? Yeah, Felicity.
Felicity. They don't really explain if it's the similar thing, if it was a baby's brain.
Yeah.
It's just like, did you take another brain and put it in her? Was she dead? Like,
what was the context of any of this?
There was no context.
And we don't learn.
She just shows up.
But like the thing
is, what blood is she playing with writing on the wall? Was it her blood? Was it somebody else's?
Like none of that is explained, and it doesn't add anything to the plot.
No.
But it does take away from what we're trying to accomplish. So it becomes like this bit where it's mostly for Willem Dafoe and Rami Youssef's characters, because they miss her. So, like, you know, there's things that we can take apart psychologically there too. But ultimately, I'm like, this doesn't serve the story in any way. This doesn't do anything to make me care about the story in any greater way.
To me, the only thing it really did is it really solidified how much Mrs. Prim hated
Bella.
Because where she goes, I like this one better than you, and then she smacks her hand with the hammer, and it's like, that was funny.
Yeah.
But that was the only part.
Yeah.
And like at the end when she says, go get water, and they make it out to be this thing, and it's like, I don't understand what the point of having.
I don't get that character. I don't understand.
I think if they would have had them try and fail, it would have been more to say we've tried.
We tried over and over and over again. We can't recreate.
Exactly.
It's one of those things where I hope that's something that was from the source material, which is why they included it. Because if it was just something they decided to include, that was a waste of time.
Exactly.
To your point about the high presence of sex in this movie, and this is something I did a lot of research on when I was in college, getting my degree in arts
Double
management.
Major.
Yeah. I did a lot of research on the presence of sex in the media and censorship and all that other good stuff. But also nowadays we have intimacy coordinators. It's like a whole job now. There are, college courses that teach, students in the performing arts about consent when they're doing their thing. And the thing I always come back to when people, and this is nothing against you, Steve, but when people are like, oh, I don't like how much sex there was in this, and it was a lot. There are so many movies with gratuitous violence. And I don't know how we got to this point where we're so okay with seeing such horrible, mutilating things happen to a body. But the moment we talk about explicit sex, which I feel is a much more natural thing than wanting to kill and maim each other, it's like I get why we have that mindset, and a lot of it is religion. But at the same time, it's like, why are you so much more okay with violence just casually, oh haha, that person got hurt, which is so present. Like even with Roadhouse, we were having a great time watching people punch each other,
kick the shit out of each other.
And I feel like it's so much, for whatever reason, it's so much more common to be like okay with taking in violent media as something to be pleasureful. But the moment it's sex, it's like, oh,
that's definitely true.
Oh, so much.
Yeah.
No, and I'll be honest,
my poor eyes, I can't watch this.
This is something I've noticed with age in my taste of film, is when I was growing up, the more nudity and the more violence I was more than happy with. But now it's a time and place for both. And there's also, it gets to a point with both with me. Like I'll watch horror movies that I know 20 years ago I would have loved. And I'm like, man, there's too much fucking violence in this.
Yeah.
And I'm noticing that I'm understanding more from, and I can, like you said, I can understand narratively where they're coming from with having the sex in this. And like you're saying, with her awakening sexually and whatnot. Sometimes I think it can get too much.
It becomes overwhelming a little bit.
It's another sex scene. It's like there was pretty much 75% of this film has gratuitous sex.
But I kind of like that. I not in the I like it, but like in the way that it serves the story, I think is very.
But like the scenes in the brothel, I appreciated the lesbian scene because it showed the connection between these two, which you get at the end also. Yeah. Her and I can't remember
when
the
they're
actress's
companions
name.
At the end.
Exactly, and it's like, oh, so she had her come because obviously. It's more than just a friendship, potentially. Like, they actually love each other. And so who knows if she's going to end up marrying what's-his-nuts.
Susie Bemba is the name of the actress.
Yeah, who knows if she'll end up marrying Max. She wants to, but then the relationship is whatever. And also her with, God, I want to say Mrs. Flick or whatever the name was.
Oh, the name of the mistress.
The mistress, but she was the woman from, what was it, the Harry Potter movie. She's the one that comes when the Dementors attack Harry.
Yes.
That's her.
Mrs. Glick.
Mrs. Glick. So seeing her like in the little halter with the tattoos, I'm like, this is weird, man.
Yeah.
Mrs. Glick. But like that scene, that interaction, also I liked a lot. But like the scenes where she's asking the questions of the guys, to me, didn't necessarily need the fucking afterwards. You know what I mean? It's like, you can kind of assume that's what they do. Or like have some sounds or like do a brief thing. But it's just like, to me, that's where it got gratuitous. It's like you didn't necessarily need the man on her interaction sexually. Because I could see the female in her interaction sexually as that growth. Like, she had the Mark Ruffalo every other scene just banging the hell out of her, and then her moving on to, like, oh, did they end up showing? No, so like the scene I appreciated where she had sex with the guy in Spain, which pissed off Ruffalo, but you didn't see it.
Mm-hmm.
Her just saying, I have that tattoos and I tried them, and I said, and it's like, that was like, that to me, you still got the point across without necessarily, and once again, I could be completely off with my take on this. It's just, it got it when I watch something violence or sex, if it gets to a point where I'm like, God damn, this just seems like a lot. It just, I have that natural thing now where I'm like, I think narratively you could have done it.
Yeah.
It seems to me to a point where it becomes almost unnecessary. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Not necessarily to the story, but just like, I think there are other ways you could do it, and it seemed like the easy way out of like, just put her against the wall and have this guy he smells and she bangs him and all. You know, it's like little things like that. I don't, once again, this is just my take on it. I could be off right or wrong.
You know what I think it might be? And this seems to be kind of the style of this director, Yorgos, whatever his last name is.
The Lobster with Colin Farrell.
He has this tendency to, like, as soon as you're finally, like, getting into a scene, even if it's not, like, even if the content of the scene is uncomfortable, like there's tension or whatever, he'll make a hard left turn into something really grotesque. And sometimes that happens with some of the sex scenes, even some of the ones that, like, it's like the super ugly guys that are in the brothel, and then we'll hard pivot to something even more disgusting,
like surgery or something.
And that's something I as much as I love this kind of movie where the sex is a little more explicit compared to most other movies, I hate how grotesque and uncomfortable some of those moments are. And it's right after some of those sex scenes. Like, why?
See,
I was having a good time.
I go back to when when Bella is yelling at Mark Ruffalo's character in the street because he's following her around. And she's going with her partner to this socialist lecture.
Yes.
And he's accusing her of being a whore and all these other things, and she just turns to him and says, "We are our own means of production."
Yeah.
And I think
oldest job.
Oh, that was great.
I think that there's a lot of. I think the reason that they have so many sex scenes is to show not her having sex, but how she reacts to all these different people coming through. The one that I think of the most is the dad who is teaching his sons how to be good at sex.
That was right out of Monty Python. Did you ever see, what was the last movie they made? And now for something completely different.
I haven't, no.
There's a scene where John Cleese is an instructor at a school, and he has his wife come in to have sex with her in front of the students to teach them, about sex ed. And it's like, that reminded me so much of that scene. I was like, that's like John Cleese.
Well, that's what I loved about it, is that she is sitting there and she speaks French. So she's listening to this guy give instructions to his sons, and he's having trouble
helping.
He's having trouble finishing, and she's like, "Oh, I know how to make that happen."
Finger in the butt or choking.
Or choking a little bit.
But like, to me, I could appreciate, because it was, I don't know, I don't even know where I would cut the sex. Like, that's the weird part about my take.
Yeah.
I don't even know where I would cut it. Maybe the creepy dude crawling like a spider towards her freaked me out a little bit, fucking watching it at 1 a.m.
Yeah.
There was the one guy in the brothel that was like, had the weird eyes. I was like...
That's what I mean about
that was fucking
just
weird.
The hard left turn. And it's like, I'm glad we're including this, because everybody uses this service.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, it's distracting me from the point.
It pendulums from the beautiful to the grotesque, really hard,
and like it makes it realistic. There's purpose. And
not just for shock value like a lot of horror movies, but with an actual narrative purpose.
Yeah, but the scene with the father and his 2 kids, I love how almost hyper consensual it is.
Yeah.
Because he is like explaining everything before he does it, and she has every opportunity to like change what they're doing. And
she also is aware of what the context of this whole expedition is.
And she's totally down for it.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, sure.
Because she's a scientist.
Yeah.
And ultimately that's what she's most interested in.
She can appreciate the position of the poor kids who are probably embarrassed to hell.
Yeah.
But
learning. All of this is in the effort of learning.
Yeah.
And I know
they'll probably be more prepared than their peers.
Yeah.
This is going to be a far left turn on a little bit of the movie that I got from a different movie. Did you ever see Mallrats?
Oh, I love Mallrats.
Do you remember the female character that was having sex with all the guys and then writing a book?
Yeah.
I got a lot of that with this. Like, she was having sex with these guys, but she was doing it intellectually, like she was writing a book in her head. Like, I got to do this.
I'm going back to that. She has the legend that tells, like, this is if I was on top. This is if he was on top. This is if I came.
Yes.
This is if he came. This is if we both came. This is if we were in this position, and like she has like a lot of
vibes of that when I was watching this. I was like,
but she wins. She wins she's like at the top of the New York Times bestseller list or something
crazy like that. But it was I think we got to talk about the Willem Dafoe gas.
That is weird. All of the Willem Dafoe stuff is weird. Because like the whole, because going back to your whole argument with nature versus nurture, that whole idea that we keep on learning about his dad, and his dad is like an actual monster, actual monster.
Part,
he is as much a Frankenstein as
Bella.
As Bella.
He is the Frankenstein's monster, but he never was dead. He was just built that way by his dad.
His dad just dissected him while he was alive over and over and over again.
God.
And just like all of these, when he's talking about why he has the thumb screw scars and how he got through it by just examining his own skin. And just like, it was so weird, but at the same time, he's such a paternal and welcoming figure. He's like one of the nicest dads you'll ever see in a movie. And it's just so strange.
I also love how they did say where Max is like, didn't you ever want to have sex with her? He's like, of course I did, but I'm a eunuch. I can't do it. And it's like that. I was appreciating that because he was this loving father figure, but it's because he had to be a loving father figure. He couldn't do anything else with her. And that to me was like, I'm glad they put that in there because it shows he is still a guy and he does see the beauty in her, but he has to only see the beauty on the inside. He can't see the physical beauty. Sexually.
I love what really sets this apart from, like his dad did this to him, he's going to do it to her, and he treats it more of that paternal father-daughter relationship as opposed to what maybe similar situations might be like for this, where like, like I brought you back to life and stuff. It's not that artist piece of art, I have to put you on this pedestal.
I created you, so you must always be the thing.
You have to be exactly what I want you to be. He's very much of the wind up. I'm gonna crank up this wind up toy and let it do its thing. If she wants to go out into the world, she's gonna go out into the world.
Well, in his whole argument and reconciling of it. Of saying, what are my options? I can let her go and have her be happy, or I can make her stay and have her hate me. So I'm going to let her go because I'd rather have her go and be happy than have her hate me forever.
And
he knows what kind of person Duncan is. And that's the best. Mark Ruffalo was fucking awesome.
He had such a weird up and down roller coaster of a ride in this movie.
Good.
There are so many moments where I'm like, why did we
cast Mark Ruffalo?
Why did we get him?
Why did we get Mark Ruffalo for this role?
He turns, if you look at him, he kind of turns into Renfield.
A little bit, yeah.
At the end of this movie, because he turns into kind of a nut. And he's weird. He's ripping his hair out.
He got too deep, but now
he can't get out.
He's like, shit.
No, and that was something that really did genuinely shock me, was that we're going to Bella and Max's wedding, and they're in the church and everybody is dressed up and everything is going great, and all of a sudden Duncan shows up, Mark Ruffalo, and he's like, I found your husband. And I'm just like, I thought the movie was over. There's 20 more minutes. There's an act 4 to this whole fucking shit.
We get this lovely surprise act 4, and like when you and I were watching it and we get to that point, and Bella's like, no, like, we're going to pause everything.
I'm going to go with him.
I'm going to go with him. And both of us are like, what are you doing?
What do you mean you're going to go with him?
And obviously we get why, is because she wants to find out.
It's scientific curiosity.
Like, if this is my origin, I might as well get the whole picture.
I need to know why I killed myself.
But holy moly, that's
I'll be
such
honest,
a gamble.
I thought they were going to put Godwin's brain in him.
Oh, that would have been weird. That would have been a weird turn.
Godwin did it to her, and she doesn't want him to die, so I thought they were going to take his brain and put it in. Yeah. They put a goat brain, which, what are you going to
I think that they respect death too much to do that.
Yeah. I think even Bella could see, like, he was not... the quality of life was not there anymore.
No,
So the most humane thing is to just let
Godwin go.
Let him
but
do
see,
his
on
thing.
the opposite with that, though, he never had, like, a physically strong body because his dad had destroyed it.
That's true.
And here's this younger body. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't really have any feelings towards the ending of this movie, but it caught me off guard. Like, I thought for sure, and then when they did the close-up of the goat, I was like, oh, they're going to put a fucking goat brain in.
That moment of realization, I was like, yes.
Yeah. It kind of had that, like, end of season 4 feel to me of a show, where it's like, at this point, everything's just going to wrap up, and I guess the movie's over. I guess that's it. I guess we're all going to go home.
Yeah.
We're done.
That's it. We didn't have anything else. That was it. That was the whole of it. No, I will love this movie for one more thing, which is that it gave me something that I don't think we'll ever see in a comic book movie, that I have very mixed feelings about to begin with, but it's interesting to see Norman Osborn finally create his perfect Gwen Stacy so he can lay in bed next to her. Mm-hmm. Usually he has to go to Europe to do it, has some kind of cloning issue going on. This hits all the bases. Mm-hmm. I'm glad we didn't get to Norman and Gwen's children. Thank God, Jesus Christ. Yeah. But that was something that every time it came up, I was like, I mean,
part of me does kind of wish she had pulled the classic movie thing where when Alfie shoots himself in the foot, she just walks out and walks by the butler and the maid and says,
"Have at him.
He's yours."
Yeah.
That, I mean, I don't know if that would be more satisfying than what she did.
But it would be satisfying.
It would be satisfying very much so.
Yeah.
Because I don't think it was necessary to have him in that final scene. It was just that little silly thing saying, "Oh, he's a goat now." But, like, I liked...
And they really established, like, that would be very cathartic for them.
I was going to say, he's going to have some comeuppance because he's that level of evil that he has to have some kind of comeuppance.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of what level of comeuppance. Which this is a pretty devastating comeuppance for someone like him. He can't be super thrilled about what's happening. He's either a goat or dead. So take your pick.
Which I will be honest, the happiest I was with that ending was, is it Toinette? Is that how you say her name?
Yeah.
I'm so happy they brought her to live with her. Because it's like, they built that relationship, and then when she went back with Max, I was like, is that relationship just done now?
Yeah.
And then to see her there at the end, I was like, good. That made me feel warm inside. I'm like...
It's a very modern family.
Yes.
Made of a lot of different interesting parts.
Parts.
For Bella, it is the dream throuple for a bisexual.
Yes. Absolutely. Yes. Absolutely.
And it's like, and poor Max. I mean, Max is
just on for it. He's just like, I'll do anything.
He signed up for this.
The whole movie, like, that is the most patient man I've ever seen in my life. He's
the entire time. So you're going to go away with Duncan? Yeah. I'd really rather you didn't. Well, I'm going to.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then she's like, I want to marry you. Do you mind that I was a whore? No,
have you been
tested? Like, that's all he cared about.
You've been tested, right?
I just love that at one point he's even like, you are undercharging yourself.
Yeah. I usually charge 30 francs. That seems low.
That reminded me of Giovanni Ribissio's character in 12 or A Million Ways to Die in the West. Do you ever see that movie?
I did not.
What part of the joke is he's like this really religious plain guy, and his girlfriend is Sarah Silverman, who is a prostitute at the brothel. They're engaged to get married, but they won't have sex until they're married because they want to wait until they're married because she's Catholic. And they're like, but you're having sex with 1 million dudes, but you want... And that's how Max reminded me of. He's just like the quiet guy's like, I guess I'll wait until we're married.
Works for me.
And they just were... Like, that reminded me so much of that because he was just the very nice...
Yeah.
I'll help. I'll take care of you.
He's like, I won't control your morals, but here are my morals.
Yes, here's what I want.
Exactly.
This is what I'm going to do. You do whatever you want, because part of the thing that I do is to not get in people's way and tell them what they should do.
Yeah.
So you do what you want, but this is what I think.
Yeah.
And no, I like this movie a lot. I'd say this is definitely an A for me. Would you?
Oh, hard yes.
Hard A?
Oh, yeah, hard A.
I'm in the A category. I'm going to watch it again.
Yeah.
Before I think I'll be in the A. This was the type of movie, though, that I don't want to I can't judge it on the
Z for
first
zany.
watch. Like, I'm going to pretend like I haven't watched it yet, so I can't give it a grade.
Come back to me next Tuesday.
Because, like, I'll be honest, the first time I saw Baron Munchausen, Lighthouse, same thing. Where I'm like, I think I like this movie a lot. Same with The Witch. The Witch took me 3 viewings to realize that I really liked it.
I feel like with RR you came in, and the first time you watched, you were like, it's a lot.
Okay, no, that movie's just 3 hours of insanity. This movie's not quite insanity, but it's just got so many visual
It gets close
and
sometimes.
psychological things that are just out there.
There's a lot of moments where you just have to, you get hit with a wave of information, and you just kind of have to be like, okay, I'm going to process that and deal with it.
And I know I've used this before. This is a Terry Gilliam movie.
Yeah.
And most Terry Gilliam movies, other than like maybe 12 Monkeys, when the first time I saw it, I was like, I don't know what the hell I just watched.
Yeah.
I need to watch it again. And then ended up loving them.
The Man Who Killed Don Quixote.
Oh my god!
When we watched that, we were like,
what
the
fever dream
fuck is happening?
It was a hilarious fever
Brazil,
dream.
for fuck's sakes.
Yeah.
That one took me like 5 viewings before I'm like, I get it now, and I really liked it. I think, like I said, I think I will say that I love this movie, but I need to watch it a couple more times.
Yeah.
Because maybe the whole sexuality thing also was just, goddamn.
That's
like,
a lot of
for,
sex.
For a
just comes
A-list
at ya.
actress who has won an Oscar already.
And hadn't done a lot of nudity before.
No.
Yeah.
She's only done nudity in Yorgos' films.
Exactly. And not like I'm saying, this is borderline. Like if this was made 20 years ago, people would say this is a softcore porn movie.
This
with
would be X-rated.
Exactly.
This would have been X-rated.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like I think I need to see it again to put everything more into context, because you do go from a sex scene to Willem Dafoe burping gas bubbles.
Yeah.
And you're like, what the fuck? And
What is happening?
And then a donkey or a goat's head on a chicken's body. And I'm
that
like, what the
freaked me
fuck?
out. That seriously messed me up. I did not like that. It was upsetting. It was deeply upsetting.
It was kind of a lot like, what's the High Evolutionary shit?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I can get the Dr. Frankenstein references, but it almost seemed like it was there to shock when it didn't need to, because the movie was already fucking out there.
It's already crazy.
Like, okay, you just said you took a baby's brain and put it into their mother's head to bring her back to life. I don't need to see a chicken on a monkey's body.
It was just too much. It was just
and
too many times in too many iterations.
Yeah.
It was like, here's a duck and a dog. Here's a cat and a goat. Here's a chicken and a dog.
Yeah.
And it was just like, okay,
I get it, man. This
I
guy's
hate
fucked
it.
up.
I hate it, dude. I can't tell you how much I hate it because I hate it.
We get it. You're good at comping.
You figured out how to sew one thing onto another.
But like, I guess the positive I would take from this is, if anyone asked me if they should see this movie, I would give it an emphatic yes.
Yeah.
With the caveat, if graphic sex makes you feel weird, be prepared.
Oh yeah.
Because you get a lot of it. But it's everything around it is incredible.
Yeah.
Like, it truly is. Like, I understand 100% why she got the Oscar.
Yeah.
Like, there's no doubt in my mind. No one deserved it more than her.
Yeah.
Even though I haven't seen every movie that everyone else has been in, it's like...
No, you get it.
The growth
can you
she
grab
does
what's
as a
in this
character
now?
is quite unbelievable. Thank you, Kelly.
Yes, thank you,
for
Kelly.
your insight.
Thanks for
We do
having me.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
This is one of the movies that I'll point to when I look at something like Captain Marvel and I see this bifurcation where women love it and men don't like it. I'm going to point to Poor Things and be like, this is a women's movie that men can understand and get a lot out of.
But I hope men that see it like it for the right reasons.
Not for lecherous reasons.
No.
That's the tricky thing.
takeaway that I really hope. Yeah. Because like I said, 20, 30 years ago, when I was just 100% hormones, would see this just for the nudity.
Yeah.
But like Baron Munchausen, I heard that Uma Thurman, who was only 18 at the time, you see her nipple for a second. And I'm like, I can't wait to see that. I think I was 15 or 16, so that makes sense with that. But like seeing this, and I think that's kind of the takeaway with the nudity for me, is because the rest of the parts that wasn't sex was so strong. Mm-hmm. And I did love her character growth.
It's amazing.
Is one of the best transitions from, I mean, you get to see, because of the transplant, you get to see somebody go from infant to adult within a very short period of time.
in a better way than Boyhood did.
Oh,
burn on Boyhood.
Yeah,
not impressed with Boyhood. Tell a good story. Don't just give me a gimmick. You're right.
And when I saw this, it made me not think of. Actually, I didn't think of Captain Marvel. I thought of Barbie. It's like this movie to me was the best depiction of female empowerment because here you have Mark Ruffalo. Like, so you are a toddler that just figured out that you can get sexually aroused, so I'm going to use that to just have sex with you constantly, to where she used it for her own growth. But then she also used her interactions with strangers and just her innocence to grow mentally. And it got to the end of the movie where it wasn't about her growth sexually, it was about her growth intellectually.
Yeah.
And it's like, God damn, why can't more fucking filmmakers see that?
Yeah.
It's like,
this is how you do character.
This is how you do it.
This is how you do a character. It's an arc. It's not just 1 to 2 to 3.
And it doesn't say all men are assholes.
Yeah.
There are really only 2 male assholes in that movie. Mark Ruffalo and Alfie.
Yeah.
That's it. Because you have the pretty much every other male she meets is either a father figure or somebody that, like, even the ones the first guy that she asked questions to.
Yeah.
He didn't just say, screw you, I just want to fuck.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I'll go for it.
And it's like, yeah. Thank you for being
you get
that
this
way.
You get this whole spectrum of people where you
that.
have Max and Rami Youssef, who is very placating and earnest in a way that we don't see enough in male characters for how many men I know who fit that criteria. We don't see that enough in male characters. You have obviously Godwin as a father and a creator figure, but then you have the 2 asshole men, and then you just have all of the guys at the brothel who are all at once anonymous, but you can very clearly tell who they are.
Yes.
And it's just like,
I guess the best way to say it is this is a very strong female empowerment film that's not anti-male.
No.
And that is like, this is what we asked for with Barbie.
Yeah.
It's like, you can do that. And this is the perfect story for that.
I love this movie. I think everybody should see it.
Yeah,
and make it a priority. I might suggest it to my dad. My dad is very finicky about nudity, so we're going to see how that goes.
Good luck with that.
I'm going to be like, listen, I get it. It's going to make you uncomfortable, but it's worth it.
Yeah. All right, folks.
Thank you to Kelly once again
for joining us. That was Nerdbot Generations episode 134. We really hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed this episode greatly.
It was a very good one.
This was a very good episode. And like you said, 2 very different movies on the opposite ends of the spectrum, and I'm so glad. So once again, Nerdpod Generations episode 134. Please go back, listen to our back catalog. Go to youtube.com. Make sure to like and subscribe anything you watch or listen to from us. If you want to know more about us, you can find Al at.
You can find me at jutsumstudios.work under the Bronx Division tab.
And someday I'm going to finish off a website. I know it's coming, folks.
It's coming at some point. I'm not going to make the sex joke after all the sex talk that we just had. Otherwise, you can check us out on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple.
Yep.
That's a great place for us to get
Who
comments.
Did our logo, Al?
Our logo was done by Kortney Howell, and our theme was done by Brendan Williams and James Connelly. And we'll be back next week, maybe with X-Men, maybe with Avatar, who knows?
Maybe with Fallout.
We'll see.
See
Have
you
a great
later,
week,
folks.
friends and enemies.